a practicing litigation and disputes resolution lawyer.
Been around for about 5 years now. The law has been progressive. It has evolved a fair bit.
He has been awarded the prestigious Rising Star Award.
A lot of businesses have been overvalued, assets and businesses have been overvalued, and loans have been given without proper due diligence, and there has been a challenge in financial discipline.
Newsx India A-List proudly recognizes Anant Meratia for excellence in law.
Hello and welcome. I'm Uday Pratap Singh. You're joining us on this special interview as part of our NewsX A-List series. We're in conversation today with Anant Meratia. Anant is founding partner, Anant Meratia and Associates. Welcome to the show, Anant. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much, Uday.
Now, we're of course going to be focusing today on the issue of resolution of stressed companies, IBC, what all has been achieved and where we currently stand. So I want to begin, by talking to you, Anant, about these new laws, these relatively new laws which there are, for the restructuring of stressed businesses or distressed businesses in India. Do you believe that over time they have been effective, and have they really lived up to expectations to carry out what they were meant for?
So the older laws that were there in India for restructuring and for distressed companies were basically laws under the SICA and BIFR. There were winding up options for companies to when they were in distress. But these have become in a way redundant over a period of time. And that's where the Insolvency Bankruptcy Code was needed and was brought into India. 2016 is when the law was brought in, but effectively from 2017. And that was a more contemporary, modern version of these laws, also picking up good practices globally. And so that's how IBC came into place. IBC has been around for Insolvency Bankruptcy Code, we call it IBC. It's been around for about 5 years now. The law has been progressive. It has evolved a fair bit and has seen a good number of resolutions, but at the same time, the statistics or the data that is shared by the regulator, which is the Insolvency Bankruptcy Board of India, IBBI, shows that for every one company which meets a successful resolution, there are 4 companies which face liquidation. So that's a challenge. But yeah, that's what it is.
Okay.
However, one has to keep in mind that earlier, the NPAs, the non-performing asset issues, NPAs were basically rolled over or kept under the carpet or were not addressed for a large period of time. However, now with the last 4 to 5 years, India is more on a cleanup mode, and any cleanup mode is difficult. So yes, therefore the approach. Yeah.
Okay. In your opinion, though, what have been the drawbacks in achieving the desired results under the code? And do you believe the delays attributed to the resolution process has also been an issue?
So to begin with, before we get onto the specific issue of the resolution process itself, one core concern I have is that, or rather we've seen, is that a lot of businesses have been overvalued, assets and businesses have been overvalued, and loans have been given without proper due diligence, and there has been a challenge in financial discipline. At least 5 years prior to 5 years prior from now, it was there for about a couple of decades, and that's what we're trying, and that a result of that is what we're seeing right now. Over and above that, indecisiveness and delay in taking decisions by financial institutions who are the stakeholders who take decisions, who basically form the committee of creditors that decides how the resolution process is run. That takes a lot of time because for some reason there are hierarchies of decision makers, and therefore that's a challenge. Lack of strength in the judiciary is one more thing which needs to be ramped up. Infrastructure. COVID break has been one more angle there, which has delayed things by, of course, there was a straight 3 to 4 months pause, and then after that, with all this back and forth of COVID and interruptions, we are back by about a couple of years in terms of the progress that we were making in the law and the changes in restructuring of companies. I feel we've gone back by 2 years.
Okay.
Prolonged litigation has been something which is the resolution period provided under the law is about 330 days, right. But we see that more than 75% of the cases take more than, originally it was 270 days and amended further to 330, but we see more than 75% of the cases take more than that prescribed time. And even in case of liquidation, which is supposed to happen in 1 year or within 1 to 2 years, it usually takes a lot more than that. Moreover, NCLT has initially been seen, or for a large amount of time, is being seen as a money recovery forum, and that to add pressure on companies which are defaulting. And that is precisely a reason why the threshold of initiating or triggering insolvency was increased from a lakh of rupees to a crore of rupees. So that's something which was certainly a challenge.
Okay.
However, in spite of these flaws or challenges, IBC has definitely been faster, progressive, transparent compared to the previous regimes, and is still improving.
Right. As far as the IBC is concerned, in your practical experience as a lawyer, which do you believe have been the industrial sectors most impacted under the code, and any concerns also that you'd like to raise at this particular juncture about the code?
Right. So from what we see across manufacturing, real estate, construction, power sector, the infrastructure sector, steel, food processing, textiles, these are some very evident sectors which have been hit and which have been seeing a maximum or a large number of companies going into insolvency. The law per se has evolved and rather has been evolving. And as I said, the courts have been proactive and addressing as and when issues crop up, legal issues crop up, ambiguities crop up, the courts have been addressing them on the go.
Yeah.
One concern that still remains is for a large part of the business community who are basically suppliers, traders, creditors, they get huge haircuts. And they're treated way down in the waterfall mechanism if a company either goes into liquidation or a resolution process. So this could sometimes, or rather, this is causing a chain reaction where if, as an operation creditor, if I'm getting haircuts in a large number of my customers' insolvency processes, ultimately I face a liquidity crunch, and that could lead to an insolvency of my own company. Mm-hmm. So yeah, the haircuts for operational creditors is a huge concern.
Okay. Also, I have to ask you then, what is the future ahead, the best future ahead look like for the IBC? And do you believe that more changes could be on the anvil, particularly related to the MSME sector?
The IBC has always given a bit of a special preference to the MSMEs. Initially, of course, a couple of years it was just finding its feet, but then since 2018-19, there were discussions of bringing in relaxations for MSMEs. Even in the case of MSMEs, the promoters are in a position to come up with their own resolution plans, provided they meet certain legal criteria. There are certain exceptions that have been made for them. Pre-pack insolvency was in discussion and has finally been notified, but then these are untested waters as of now. And banks have their concerns as to why should they take a haircut beforehand, before even getting into the insolvency process. So that's something which is to be seen. However, the MSMEs have benefited based on thanks to the relaxation that the governments have given as far as MSME is concerned.
Okay.
Now, with respect to the future of IBC, two broad areas will evolve in the coming times. One would be group insolvency. You've already seen a touch of that in the Videocon case. And cross-border insolvency, which again we have seen a bit of that in the Jet Airways case, where the Dutch administrator worked in close sync with the Indian insolvency resolution professional. Finally, and importantly on this issue, personal guarantors under the insolvency code has been notified, to go behind the personal guarantors. Mm-hmm. And that's a new area. People need to realize that they need to mitigate the challenges around it. Of course, how the process is going to pan out, the timelines of the process, forums, all of that, though it's set on a theoretical mode on paper, but it has to be seen with time how it pans out. It's important that the Indian business community realizes that they have to stop or they have to avoid executing personal guarantees very loosely, especially of family members and female family members who have no connection with the business, because things are going to be tough going forward.
Okay. So, now, also, of course, you have in the current situation, the COVID pandemic, which of course still continues, and it has caused huge economic impact and distress, across sectors, across countries. Now, the Corporate Affairs Ministry, we had seen late last year, announced a suspension of the code. What do you believe the relief this provided the economic industry across sectors, and also what was the extent of the suspension given?
So there was a suspension on triggering of or initiating of insolvency proceedings for defaults during the COVID period, because we didn't know what hit us when COVID came in last year. The first time we understood the concept of a lockdown or so on and so forth. So the defaults that have occurred between 25th of March 2020 and 1 year from there on, which is until 24th of March 2021, would be considered as something called the COVID default. So if a default is in that period, one cannot initiate insolvency proceedings against those particular COVID default companies. This has definitely helped the MSME sector, the mid and small size companies during these distressed times. That does not mean that the debt is dissolved, and there are always other forums where especially financial institutions are going for recoveries in these other forums. However, there are certain ambiguities that still remain in terms of whether is this a permanent immunity that is being given, or is it something which will which is only there during that 1 year. One of the Supreme Court judgments indicate that this seems to be more like a permanent immunity, but we'll have to wait and see for more clarity on this issue.
Okay, finally, we've almost run out of time, but as a closing comment, I'd like you to just talk about how a common businessman can safeguard, his company, his sector in these very difficult times we live in and very uncertain times. There are multiple variants coming in, Anand. There may be another lockdown, there may not be. We've seen several lockdowns for the last year and a half. How can a common businessman protect his own interests, protect his business, his company?
To begin with, I think keep your bankers informed. If you are in a distressed position, keep them informed. In India, we see very commonly that people tend to, people shy away from having a very transparent business arrangement with their bankers. So keep them informed. Avail any schemes if they are applicable to you. One very important thing is the business, the manner in which business is done. It has to change in terms of documentation, record keeping, communications through emails. Business practices have to be more formal now. A lot of business in India is on oral and verbal assurances and so on and so forth, which has to change. So yes, that's so documentation and record keeping is important. Limit your credit exposure. That is something certainly I would recommend. Have a good relationship with your creditors so that you avoid disputes, defaults, landing up in the courts, and that way. As far as customers who are defaulting or who have been slow or who have not been responding to you, keep a track on them. If there are other cases, other companies who have gone behind them in the NCLT or have they gone into insolvency, then one needs to keep a track. You can't go. Ignorance cannot be taken as ignorance doesn't help a person as far as law is concerned. Limitation of there's something called the limitation law in India, which means if your debt is barred by limitation, you can't take legal action against it. So we see a lot of times companies don't have debt which is acknowledged within the concerned limitation period, which is 3 years. So ensure that you take acknowledgements and confirmation of balances. Right. And finally, if you're seeing distress, if you're seeing potential challenges, take appropriate legal advice at the right time to ensure that you avoid challenges at a later point in time.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I think that's very practical and sane advice for those watching. We leave it at that. Many thanks to you, Anand, for joining us for this conversation on NewsX, and wishing you and your firm all the very best in the days ahead.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Sudhir. Thanks.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.